Okay, the next section we have the control logic. So this is where we can have scheduled, conditional, automatic reboot, or override schedules. So scheduled task is anything that we want to have reoccurring, whether that's hourly, weekly, monthly, yearly. We can come in and we can set a certain condition. So right here, I just have a scheduled task. I want it to, you can have different modes on it. I've just set it to normal. And I can come in, select the start date and time. We can evaluate it, a condition if we need to. This is only specific if at the scheduled time we need to look at a different IO just to make sure whether we're going to complete an action or not. But here I've just, for the sake of our demo today, here I'm just triggering a relay to turn on a date. So let's just say like a door lock. I have it continuing, I have it repeating weekly. So we can even get down to the seconds. So seconds all the way up to yearly. And then I can select the days or deselect them based on it. And I can have it continuous or have it in on a specific date. And click Save Changes. And what's important to know when we're doing control logic is we always need to set a false condition, so to speak. So right here, if we set the relay to turn on at 8 a.m., the relay will remain on until we tell it to turn off. So we had to set a second condition, which would end at 5 p.m., so that we can have the relay turn off. And so that's a little bit about our scheduled task. Conditional. This is set up in the form of an if-then statement. So right here, I've created some conditional tasks for battery voltage. Let's say if you have a solar panel, you want to get an email alert notifying you when the battery voltage drops below. Let's say if you had a 24-volt system and you wanted to know when the batteries got below 20, you could have it send you an email notification. So here, we utilized a timer. So thinking back to our IO setup, when we were under the timer section, I've just created a defrost timer. So we can come in and click edit. This just says room temperature because that's how we renamed our temperature sensor. What I'm saying in this conditional statement is if my room temperature is greater than or equal to a value of 75 degrees Fahrenheit, then I want to set a defrost timer to a specific value, and it's done in seconds. So right here, I've set it for 5 minutes or 300 seconds, and I've just started the timer and I just click save. Now, as soon as the temperature sensor gets above 75, we then want to start the timer. But let's say we're just going through a defrost cycle. Defrost cycle ends after 5 minutes, as an example. Let's say we don't want to get notified about every time the unit is going into a defrost. So then we create another condition to say if my defrost timer expires, so our 5 minutes is up, and let's say the temperature sensor is now reading 78 degrees. So now we know that the defrost cycle has ended, but the system is still out of range. Then we want to send that email notification letting us know that something is wrong. So now we will come down to our then statement and then select an action to then send the email, and then we'll just go ahead and click save on that. All right, moving on. Now we're looking at the automatic reboot task. This is if we want to ping an IP address. Right here, there's applications where you have an IP camera, and let's say it tends to freeze up. So you want to be able to power cycle the power going to the camera to allow it to reboot. And so here we can actually have our unit ping that IP. And if after a certain amount of time the IP the IP camera is still not responding, we can then set an action to turn a relay off or on until the IP camera successfully is rebooted and our unit is successfully pinging the unit again. And you can just connect, one of our relays up to the power of the IP camera to allow our unit to power cycle that. Lastly, under the control logic, we have override schedules. This is useful for certain holidays. So if you have a magnetic door lock that you do not want to open on a specific holiday, business hours are not open, we're not in the office, then we just want to have the door locked. We can set an override schedule to then take effect over the normal schedule that we had indicated up here. The next section under control logic is basic script. This is where you can upload a script file to accomplish more complex logic. I've just loaded in a simple script here, which we have more information on scripts under our support tab, and under tutorials we have a basic script where we have a lot of good information about different scripts that you can use with our units.